time you've seen me, like there's chickens. We now have chickens at the house. The dogs and all of the animals are losing their marbles.
Oh, how the cat? Want to eat the chickens?
Well, it's been okay. So here we go. We're going live stream, and this may get loud here in a minute. I'm gonna have to, yeah, see there, that happens. Okay, so the cat's been fine with our chickens, but I just found it at the back door with a dead bird in its mouth.
Oh,
Not one of ours, but like it's like, oh, we're doing birds. I brought one home too.
yeah, what's one too?
So anyway, it's kind of, I'm like, the animals may lose their marbles. They're barking, they're a little edgy, so I hope they don't get too wild in the middle of anything really important. So Sue, your hand's raised. I'm going to allow you to talk. Maybe.
Hello. Yeah, I got permission to unmute. Yeah. I was also just getting ready to send a question because the chat was disabled. But anyway, so I had to be in the office today. So I'm sitting in a conference.
Oh, that's okay. That's okay.
So, but I really wanted to listen to this. But so you're recording it so I can do the yoga piece at home?
Yes, I am going to record it to mine, and it is getting, actually it won't let me record, I don't think. But it is getting posted on YouTube. So it's live streaming through YouTube right now, and it should be up there. Okay.
Awesome. Thank you.
You are so welcome.
Appreciate your time today, ladies.
Good to see you, Sue. Good to see you, even if it's just your name. Good to hear your voice. I'm going to mute you. And I'm going to go to Dre because she's got her hand up too. But maybe, where did you go, Dre? Oh, I'm losing people. They're coming in and out. Dre may have just signed out to get her thing to not be there. So, okay. All right, we got a couple more minutes. I was hoping, oh, there it is. I am going to start the recording at the top of the hour. We have everybody coming in. Dre, I saw that your hand was raised at one point. If you need something, make sure you let me know. I'm going to double check the question and answer. No, my Q&A box will open. So if anybody, I don't know if Sue's was, I don't know if it's not, I don't know. I don't make up the rules with this. I think it works. And then, you know, I find out new things because technology sometimes tends to win. But any questions, please put in the question and answer box. I'm going to hit record. We've got a number of folks here. All right. Miss Eva, do you need anything else or any other questions, worries, concerns?
I'm good. Just glad to be here.
I'm so glad you're here. I will go through and introduce you here in just a moment, but I just want to make sure everybody else has time to get signed in. I'm glad to see everybody here. So many faces. There's so many names, at least, that I haven't seen in a while. So interestingly, when people talk, they come onto our gallery, but if they, how interesting that everybody isn't on our gallery. Just so everybody knows, we can't see faces. I can't. Eva, can you see a face other than mine?
Just yours. Just your beautiful face.
Don't get excited that people can see us all doing downward dog as best as we can or cannot do. I don't know that anybody else can see us. So I think everybody can see. Hopefully, if you can't see Eva and me, please let me know and we'll see what I need to do. It is the top of the hour, so I think we are gonna dive in. I am glad everybody found their way here. I'm so glad to have Eva here to teach us her skill set. Like, she's got a skill set that I don't have. I have a certain skill set, and these are things, and Eva knows. Eva, by the way, is my personal yoga. I mean, she doesn't just teach me, but I go to her yoga class multiple times a week, and I always say I go for my run and then she undoes all the things. She stretches me out and unfolds me again, so I can be mobile and not be achy in places. So I've known Eva. Eva and I have known each other since we were children. And in the last few years, we've come back together kind of in this realm of, taking care of ourselves in a top-notch kind of way. So she is the yoga instructor that I go to. We do other things together. We've gone to breath work together. We've done all sorts of things just in this space of how do we master the inner dialogue, the inner systems of our body. And so that's really what we're going to be talking about, that skill set. Before we get started, I do want to make sure everybody again knows the question and answer box should work. I will be checking that at the end of this webinar so that we can answer any questions that come up there. And so if you have anything, put it in there. We will get to that at the end. This is being recorded on the YouTube channel. So the Delane MD YouTube channel, this will be posted there. Tell your friends, they can find it there. I do want to talk about insulin resistance because of course, if you found your way to me and found your way to this webinar, chances are good that that's the avenue you found this, right? Like you're insulin resistant in some way and you're wanting to get that resolved or remedied. So type 2 diabetes, pre-diabetes, gestational diabetes, obesity, non-alcoholic fatty liver disease, polycystic ovarian syndrome, all of these diseases, these conditions are really all on a spectrum of too much insulin in our system, of this hyperinsulinemia, this high insulin level in our bloodstream. To reverse those syndromes, those disease states, we have to normalize our insulin in our system. So we have to get our cells to where they're insulin sensitive, they're responsive to insulin versus what they are when these disease states are present, which is insulin resistant. So most of the time, what happens when we have a normal, our cells are functioning normally, so they're not insulin resistant, but instead they're insulin sensitive. When we have that state of biology, what should be happening is we have a cell that's normally functioning, we eat food or we get exposed to something that puts glucose into our system. The pancreas senses that glucose, the pancreas spits out some insulin, and our cells respond to insulin by opening up, pulling that glucose in and burning that glucose as fuel. That's how it should be working. But in our modern life, we get overexposed to this insulin and our cells don't then open up. That's called insulin resistance. When there's glucose in our system and the pancreas sees it and spits out some insulin, our cells don't open up and they don't pull that glucose inside. They don't burn it off as fuel. And instead that glucose on the outside of the cell starts to rise higher and higher and higher. And that's of course what we pick up in lab work as diabetes. That's high blood sugars, right? So what do we do to fix that? If you have found your way to me, you are aware of the things that I help women do to fix this, right? We have to lower our insulin level. That's the fix to resolving these diseases of too much insulin in our system. So whenever it seems like, oh, I don't understand how this works, or it's confusing, I always like to use the analogy of children in a room. Like if you've got a classroom of kindergartners and you've got, say, 5 kindergartners in your room, and they will make noises, right? Like they'll make noises, somebody will pop off something, or somebody will start humming, or somebody will even start moving and squirming. And you can be very responsive to these subtle signaling, these cues from 5 children. But if you get into a room where there's 50 kindergartners, which always gives me a panic attack to even think about, but you get in a room where there's 50 kindergartners, there's always there's a low level of noise there. And you do not pick up the message that's coming in that noise. You're not picking up the words that are actually being said and the things that they want you to hear. You're not hearing it because there's this low level of noise. You can't interpret it, right? That is what it's like to be insulin resistant. If you think of the noise as insulin and you think of you as the cell, ideally, you want to hear this message, this noise, the sound in your ear and pick up the message and be responsive to it. You can do that when there's 5 kids in your room, but when there's 50, you have too much noise and you can't hear the message and you don't respond to it. You're insulin resistant, you're noise resistant at that space, right? So the noise is the insulin and you are the cell. And the answer to having too much noise is not turning on a radio. It's not making more noise, it's not bringing more kids in, right? Like that's not going to fix that room of 50 kids. The thing that's going to fix the message getting to you is to have less noise in the room I always say, have people come and get the other kids, and where you're back at 5 kids in the room, and suddenly you can be responsive again. You're sensitive to the noise. That's what we're trying to create to reverse type 2 diabetes. We're trying to create insulin sensitivity versus that insulin resistance. And the way that we do that is we stop exposing ourselves to insulin. That's the way we get back to this insulin sensitive state. So the tools that I typically teach, and most people are aware of this, I teach 3 tools. They're cleaning up your diet, so not overexposing yourself in highly processed foods. So highly processed foods will cause you to spit out tons of insulin, right? Like that's the primary source of this insulin problem we have in America. If we're eating foods that are refined, foods that are highly processed, we're going to put out tons of insulin. So we clean up our diet. We do intermittent fasting. Intermittent fasting narrows the window that we're exposed to the insulin. And that allows, again, it's like less noise. It allows our cells to start responding to that insulin better. And then nutritional ketosis. Those are the 3 primary tools that I teach for women to reverse their type 2 diabetes. And again, it's all revolving around lowering that insulin level so that our cells can become responsive again. We can use medications to lower the blood sugar, but you all know that I am not a huge fan of this, right? Because usually these meds, what they do is they increase that insulin level, and that insulin level, of course, persists, causes the problem to persist. So meds are not usually something I ever encourage. Metformin is kind of on the fence for me. But, you know, this is why meds don't work and why we have to find all these other tools to learn to bring that insulin level down. Stress in our body, that's what we're talking about today. The body's response, and then how do we manage our body's response to stress? The human body only has one way to manage or to deal with stress. It has only one response. And I shouldn't say it has only one response, but what I mean by that is the response that the human body has when we're stressed out is the same, whether we're getting chased by a saber tooth or whether we got an unexpected bill. The human body doesn't have like, oh, this is a deadly stress and this is just an annoying stress. It doesn't delineate those. It doesn't distinguish that. So when you're annoyed or when you're about to die, your body only has one response, and that's the stress response. What happens with that is our body makes cortisol, our adrenal glands make cortisol. Everybody's heard about cortisol, and we know it makes us fat. We know it has all these problems associated with it, and that's not untrue. It does. But how it causes these problems is 1, it's cortisol. 2, there's adrenaline and noradrenaline and some other neurotransmitters and hormones that are released that cause changes in our vascular system that can cause problems down the line. But as far as fixing your type 2 diabetes, it's the cortisol. The cortisol gets released and it goes to the liver and it tells the liver to make glucose. It goes through a process called gluconeogenesis. Glucose, new, genesis, make. Gluconeogenesis. It makes new glucose out of nothing. It makes it out of glycogen, actually, but it makes it where it wasn't before. So what's that?
You're totally geeking out here.
Oh yeah. Everybody else is used to my nerdy ways. Yes, that's what it, I know you've heard it some too, but so gluconeogenesis causes your glucose to go up. Your glucose goes up in your system, and this makes sense, right? Like if you're running from a saber tooth, you need to have energy fueled to your cells, right? Like, and that energy is glucose. That's what glucose is. It fuels our cells. So if that were going to happen, that's what you need to do. Probably don't need to have glucose in your system though, if you're just stressed out about a bill, okay? So when we stress, we get this glucose in our system. That glucose in our system like tease off our pancreas to say, oh, we need to make insulin. And so then we're making more insulin. And that, of course, that insulin drives the insulin resistance. So when we learn how to manage our stress better, this is just another tool that we now have to bring that insulin level down. We're all going to have stress. Like that's the human existence. Stress is not bad inherently. Being under stress all the time, your body is not developed, our body is not designed, our body is not evolved, whatever word you want to use, our body is not meant to tolerate stress all the time, okay? Again, 10,000 years ago, we weren't worried about bills. We maybe had arguments, but we figured them out because we all had to live together and we couldn't just, separate and not have our people in our life. We had to figure it out back then. We weren't under stress 24/7, 10,000 years ago. in our modern society, we certainly have a lot more stressors, and learning some tools to manage that is key. And sometimes one of the biggest players in reversing type 2 diabetes. So for any ladies that are out there that are like, oh, I've got this A1C of like 6.1, 6.2, it's been there forever, I eat really clean. This stress management technique might be the thing that you need to push you over the edge into that optimal A1C, optimal insulin functioning realm. So that is what we are going to talk about today. So I'm going to turn it over to Eva. Again, Eva and I have grown up together. We've known each other for years. She's had a yoga practice. She has practiced yoga for 10 years. She has been certified and taught yoga over the last 4 years. She's in her master's program right now for, is it psychology?
Clinical counseling. So yeah.
Yes. So, and then, I mean, she's always looking to upgrade her skill set in these stress management techniques and how, different tools to do that. So I'm going to let Eva take it over and teach us some things here that might help us manage our stress a little better.
Well, good morning, everybody. I'm so honored to be here with Delaine. I love to geek out with her about all of these things on a regular basis. Not only is she an amazing friend, but she's an amazing coach too. So I know you guys have all experienced that, and I'm just honored to be here with her. So first off, I want to say that my journey coming into yoga was to find sanity for myself. So this is not just textbook things that I'm going to tell you. These are things I have learned from my own experience. And to manage my own stress. So I empathize and I relate with each of you wherever you're at in your journey. And so like Delaine said, stress is a normal part of life, but our ability to recover from stress is a huge factor in how our body adjusts to and responds to that stress. When we're not able to efficiently come back down from that stress level, or if we're in that chronic stress all the time, you're going to have physical reactions. And those can a lot of times be very debilitating. I really loved the picture that you drew for us about the kids in the room. And I think stress is so similar. If you have a few thoughts or a few emotions in your room, you can attend to those, and you can process them and work through them, hopefully, and resolve them or give them the attention that they need. But when there are 50 overwhelming emotions in your room, you can't hear any of them. You can't tune into yourself. And it's just this constant level of noise. And that's what we're talking about today. At least that's what I'm talking about today. So when we are in a stress response, our body goes into fight or flight. That's when the autonomic or automatic nervous system is activated. It goes into sympathetic mode, which, I mean, if you think about, your body is literally having sympathy for what you're dealing with. And so like Delaine said, cortisol will shoot up, and then there's that demand for blood or for sugar in your bloodstream so that you have that quick energy. And like Delaine said, when it's not for survival, we don't need it. Our body doesn't know the difference. So it's learning how to adjust for that, come back down out of that fight or flight mode. And so something that has made a huge difference to me in learning about that response that our body goes through, we have something called the vagus nerve, and it's a huge nerve that runs from your brain stem. It usually comes down on the right side, and then it branches out to every single organ in your body: heart, lungs, kidneys, liver, pancreas, your digestive system, your skin. All 5 of your senses are connected to this vagus nerve. So it takes in this information, even just the tone of you can pick up vibes in a room. Those are senses. That's information that your senses are taking in and can really trigger you off into a fight or flight response without you even being able to realize it. So that polyvagus, the vagus nerve has several different functions, and a man named Stephen Porges came up with what we call the polyvagal theory. And when you tend to live in chronic stress, you have that activation of the sympathetic nervous system, which is that fight or flight demand for energy. Usually we get this resulting in anxiety, panic, worry, rumination. But then our body will try to naturally compensate for that. And the parasympathetic nervous system will activate, which is rest and digest. And that's normally a very, very healthy place to be. But when we have this constant activation of the sympathetic nervous system, the fight or flight, and then our body is constantly trying to calm that down, it's like driving a car with the brake on. Like the gas is all the way down to the floor and the brake is all the way down to the floor. And so we're just living in that constant stress mode. And this is where syndromes develop. Syndromes like diabetes, syndromes like heart disease, high blood pressure, arthritis, any autoimmune disease where your body is inflamed chronically and is attacking itself. So lots of ways to manage this. Obviously, medicine has made huge advancements in how we can treat this, but a lot of times those treatments have side effects. And while I'm not saying that you should not take those medications, because I'm not a doctor, there are things that we can do to complement those types of treatments. So some of the ways to do that is to increase your vagal tone. And increasing your vagal tone is really just a way of teaching your body how to come out of that stress mode, finding that calm, finding that peace, finding that rest and digest place where we function very efficiently and very peacefully. That's where we want to be. We can't be in that place all the time, obviously, but we want to try to get there as much as possible. When we have a good stress response, blood sugars will go down, anxiety and depression will lessen, sleep will be better, digestion will be better. You're lowering your risk for literally every illness or sickness or syndrome that's out there when you are managing your stress. So some of the ways to strengthen your vagal tone, breathing is a huge one. That is because it's bringing you back into your body, bringing your awareness back to the present moment. I mean, if you think about anxiety, you're usually up in your head or you're out of your body. You're usually focused on something that is outside of this and something you can't control. So to take that attention back to your body and find those grounding exercises, breathing is probably the most underrated way of immediately coming back down to that baseline. When we breathe, especially with our diaphragm is that muscle between your chest space and your stomach space. That muscle will drop. It will automatically give your heart and lungs more room to function. That will lower your blood pressure, lower your pulse, lower your cortisol levels, lower those sugar levels immediately. Some other ways that we probably won't go into today, but just if you want a future reference or think about looking up more ways to dig into this, because we're really just hitting the tip of the iceberg here. Humming, anything, that voice, anything vibrational in your throat, laughing, singing, gargling. Those are all great ways to strengthen that vagal nerve. Laughter, did I say that one already? That's a really good one. Socialization and laughter is so healthy and so good for you. meditation, and meditation specifically with visualization. And I'll take you through a very short meditation at the end of this, where we can work into some of that visualization. Sleep and diet are huge. Everything's connected. Your mind and your body is all connected. And so when we're feeding one area of our body, we're feeding the rest of it. So if everybody's ready, we'll go through just a few different breathing exercises. Very easy to do, nothing intense, nothing that you should have to worry about feeling like you're going to pass out or have difficulty breathing if you have asthma or anything. It shouldn't be anything like that today. So the first one I want to talk you through, you're going to take your thumb and your middle finger, or maybe your thumb and your ring finger, and you're going to cover both nostrils. We're not wanting to pinch your nose or close anything off, just closing off those nostrils, and let go of one of them and take an inhale, and then close that one off and exhale through the other one. And then take another inhale on that side, and then close it off and exhale through the other side. That's a very, very quick way to just ground and balance. So you're welcome to try that one for a few minutes anytime. Another one that I especially like, and this one is really good for, I think it's good for both anxiety and depression. So anxiety is usually associated with a hot feeling, and it's high energy. And so we want to calm that down. We want to cool that down. So when you inhale through your nose, you can notice that the breath coming in your nose feels cool. And then when you exhale, it feels warm. So we're going to try a double inhale, and that sounds like this. Exhaling through your lungs. So just noticing when you inhale, it's nice and cool. And as you exhale, it's warm. I like to say in my yoga classes, we usually start with like a couple minutes of meditation and then like 5 minutes at the end. I like to think of your breath as the waves of an ocean. A wave coming in through your nose, and then a wave going back out through your mouth, trying to make that breath consistent and even, balanced, intentional. And that will lower that heart rate, lower that blood pressure, lowers those stress levels. And you can start to feel places in your body relax. If you spend a few minutes just working on a breath like that, you have to be focused in the present moment. Anxiety is thinking about the future, depression is thinking about the past. So if we can come back to center and think about just this moment, that's all we can manage, that's all we can deal with, that's the only thing we have any semblance of control over, and focusing on that breath is essential. So just constantly thinking about that breath like the wave of an ocean coming in and going out. The last one that I will take you through, I'm going to wait until we start the meditation because I think it'll just lead very nicely into that. So I'm going to show you just a few yoga poses that we can do. We won't go into a full-fledged yoga class. You'll have to come to my class tonight for that, Delane.
I intend to. I'm actually going to do them. I have my, I don't know. You'll see me. You can't see my mat, but it's all back there. So this could be fun. Don't make it anything I'm going to follow with.
Well, I will talk you through and I will demonstrate, but I'm in a small room, so I don't have my yoga mat, but I will walk you through some of these. So like I said, anxiety can be a very energetic mood or place to be in. So when we're feeling anxious, some good poses would be calming poses, ones that will help us to slow down, find that center, find that balance. And then if you're struggling with depression, That's usually thought of as a cold emotion. Usually you just want to kind of go inside yourself, not in a good way, and just draw back in so that you can get warm. So I'm gonna show you some poses that will create a little bit of heat in your body, a little bit of energy, and you can use these to balance out your moods, balance out the anxiety. So to start, I think we'll start with some good poses for anxiety. And probably the best one is a child's pose. So just sitting on your knees. Can you see me? I have to scoot back more. Sitting on your knees. And I like to take my knees wide. If I have a yoga mat, it's about that distance. And you're literally just going to fold forward until your forehead comes closer to the ground. And this can be a very passive pose, or it can be an active pose. You can have your hands above you. Can you hear me okay? You can have your hands above you, and you can use the floor to push your hips down towards your heels, getting that nice stretch in your low back. I try to tell my clients, or my yogis as I call them, to let your belly fall into your lap, relaxing that space and staying with your breath. If you'd like it to be more of a passive pose, you can always take your hands and place your arms and place them behind you, maybe palms up. And focusing on that breath in this position, just slowing everything down. It's amazing how we can affect our body with our mind, but we can also affect our mind with our body. So what we do with our body will correlate to our mind, and slow those thoughts down. Continue taking that breath, filling up those lungs all the way, taking in as much oxygen as you need. There's no shortage. And then sighing out that exhale. Just coming to a very peaceful place of surrender. Okay, if you want to slowly come out of that one and come to a seated position. This is a pose that I usually will suggest for meditation. It certainly doesn't have to be for meditation. It can just be a place to breathe. And I like to put a pillow under my hips just to put everything in alignment. It helps to put your head, neck, and spine in alignment. Drops your knees forward a little bit so it takes some pressure off your hips. A lot of times, if we have stress or anxiety, we're going to have tight hips. And I just read this last week. It was so cool. I was like, ooh, Delane would like that. The psoas, I think that was the psoas muscles, what they were talking about. Maybe it was the piriformis. But anyway, it's the muscle that usually causes hip pain or low back pain. That muscle is directly connected right by your adrenal glands. So if you think about, yeah, isn't that cool? So when you think about fight or flight, your body is literally getting ready to run. So that would explain why we get a lot of tight hips in stress. So this is one that just drops those knees forward, releases the tension in your hips. You can take your hands on your knees, palms up. There is no right or wrong way to do these yoga poses as long as you're not hurting or getting injured. Some people like to have their palms up. Some people like to have their palms down. Think about somebody pressing in the middle of your back between your shoulder blades, pushing your chest forward and drawing your shoulders back. Relaxing your shoulders down your back. Finding your breath here. Relaxing your jaw, separating your teeth, dropping your tongue from the roof of your mouth. Smoothing out your forehead and your brow. And let your belly spill out with your inhale. That's going to really get you into that diaphragmatic breathing. And on your inhale or exhale, squeeze your belly. The longer that you can get that exhale to be, the more you will slow down that stress response. We draw in energy with our inhale, and with our exhale, we calm everything down. So you see that there's that constant balance between energy and calm, energy and calm. And so when we spend a little bit more time on that exhale, we can get more calm into our space. And just noticing without judgment where you have tension, breathing in a little extra attention to those places, giving them grace and love, the attention that they need. All right, if you want to go ahead and open your eyes, if you have them shut, I'll show you just a couple of poses to create some energy and some heat in your body if you're feeling cold or if you're feeling like you need to get moving and just can't. Zoe agrees, my little kitty cat. So downward dog is probably the most well-known or well-spoken of yoga pose. Get my hair back here. So we can start from hands and knees. And the first thing you're going to do is just curl those toes. Hands are underneath your shoulders, knees are underneath your hips, curling those toes. And we're just going to push your hips up towards the ceiling or towards the sky. And then press your chest towards the wall behind you. We're keeping those shoulders relaxed. Dropping your chin down to your chest. You can feel that stretch in your hamstrings, behind your knees. We're pressing those heels down. We don't have to touch the floor. Yoga looks different on everybody every day. And taking some breaths here, drawing up some energy from the ground. And the more you press that heart towards the back wall, the more you'll get into those shoulders. And staying with that breath, that's probably the most challenging thing when we're moving through poses, is staying with that breath. All right, go ahead and step your feet up towards your hands. And maybe you're able to touch the floor, maybe not. Either one is perfectly fine. And then let's draw your body all the way up so that you're standing. Ooh, not a lot of space there in my room here. So mountain pose is another great pose for drawing some energy. If anybody has read some of the books about self-empowerment in very simple ways, one of those is Superman pose. If you guys have heard of that or not, and it just, it's that Superman pose of drawing your shoulders back, We're embodying confidence. So this is another one that's very similar to that. We're taking our hands to our heart center, pressing your thumbs in towards your heart center, opening up that heart space, pulling your shoulders back. Again, imagining somebody putting a hand between your shoulder blades, pushing your chest out just a little bit. You can have your feet together. And then we're squeezing that belly, engaging your core, building some heat. And then squeezing your glutes together, just drawing up energy. Continuing to take a couple of breaths here. Staying with that breath, staying loyal to your breath. All right, one more pose I'm going to show you, and it might be hard to show. I'll have to point my camera down just so you can see my feet, because there is some good foot placement that you want to have. So warrior two is which one we're going to work on today. Your front foot is, the toes are pointed forward. You want to have your knee in line with your hip. Okay, there's another direction of it. And that back foot is pushing down. It's flat on the ground, and we're pushing, our emphasis is on that pinky side of the back foot. Okay, once you have that foot placement, we're going to open up the arms and turn your body open towards your heart, okay? So reaching through those fingers, your chin is over your chest or over your heart, pressing your front heel down. So try wiggling those front toes. Back foot's pressing down on that pinky side of your foot, where you're drawing up that energy from the ground, from the earth. And make sure and keep that right hip underneath you. Don't let it swing out to the side. Pull it underneath you to keep that spine in alignment. Relaxing those shoulders, reaching through those fingers. Remembering to breathe. So another way to think about stress, if you want to come out of that, you can. I've just got a couple more things I'll say, and then we'll go into that meditation. The way that we strengthen that vagus nerve is by intentionally creating some stress and then bringing ourselves out of it. So we're staying in that window of tolerance with stress and then breathing through it, coming back down from it. That's going to build that resilience that we need to be able to handle those daily stressors. So right now, the ice plunges are super popular. The cold showers, I'm like, no, thank you. I want nothing to do with that. But it's the same principle of purposely putting yourself in a place of stress, staying in that window of tolerance, and then recovering from it. So that's that mechanism that builds that stamina and that resilience that we need to manage our stress levels. All right. So last little bit of breath, and then we will go into a short meditation. So this last breath is box breathing. So imagine a box. One side of that box is your inhale. And usually I'll say inhale for 4 seconds, hold it for 4 seconds, exhale for 4, and then hold that for 4. Okay, so we're going to start with taking an inhale to the count of 4. It doesn't have to be seconds. Count of 4. So inhale 1, 2, 3, 4. Hold it for 1, 2, 3, 4. Exhale for 1, 2, 3, 4. Hold it for 1, 2, 3, 4. Inhale for 4. Hold it for 4. Exhale for 4. And hold that for 4. Sometimes you have to start with 2 or 3 and work your way up to 4. That's okay. No judgment here. I think the most judgment we encounter is from ourselves. So that's a huge source of stress that we can eliminate or work on eliminating. So just staying with that 4 counts in, hold it, exhale, hold it. And go ahead and close down those eyes if you're ready. Do maybe one more cycle of that box breathing. And then just let your breath come back to natural rhythm. Breathe into wherever you feel some tension in your body. And I want you to imagine, since it's spring, we're going to imagine a garden that you can walk out to. And in this garden, you can smell all the flowers that are blooming. You can walk on the grass. If you're allergic to grass, you can have your shoes on. It's your garden. And let's bring in all of your senses to this garden, the smell of the flowers. And maybe feel the cool air and the warm sun on your skin. Feel the ground beneath your feet. And hear some birds chirping. And maybe there's some bunnies or squirrels or butterflies in your garden. Imagine there's a large shade tree over to one side. And maybe find a bench to sit on and enjoy all this and take all of this in. Or maybe there's a path in this garden that you want to walk and explore some more. And feel that sun on your skin still, and the heat, and the warmth that it embraces you in. And feel that heat in your chest and in your heart space. Opening up that space, allowing all the goodness to come in. Just taking in all of the peace and the beauty that's around you. Spending just a couple more minutes here in your garden. Drawing in the hope and optimism of all the new life and vitality. And take a couple of deep breaths, sorry. Inhaling, filling up your lungs all the way. Just drawing in all this energy from this garden. Feeling it spread throughout your body. And then exhaling. Taking another inhale. And exhaling. Taking all of that goodness with you. And then start to wiggle your fingers and toes. Bringing your awareness back to your body, back to the room. Maybe fluttering your eyes open. And just notice how you can feel so much better after just a few minutes of focused intention and visualization. I woke up this morning feeling very anxious, not because of the webcam. This is fun stuff for me, but I woke up feeling very anxious over some things in my life and had to remind myself, Eva, breathe. And I made myself lay in bed for just another 10 minutes and meditate and breathe and visualize. And then I was able to get out of bed and tackle my day. So even when we're well practiced in this kind of stuff, we have to have those reminders. We have to hold ourselves accountable. We have to make ourselves take the time to work through the emotions we're feeling, work through and listen to our body, listen to it, what it's telling us it needs. And oftentimes it's just to calm down, to breathe, and gain some perspective. So thank you guys so much for listening today. And Delane, I'm just going to turn it back over to you, and I'm anxious to hear what you have to say.
Thank you so much for that, Eva. I'm like all chilled. Despite the chickens at my house and my dogs being kind of a handful, and there being a cat with a dead bird in its mouth out in the backyard. So that's all fun. I feel much better. Thank you. So I want everybody to kind of touch base with their internal space and how they feel. And I would love if you guys put in the question and answer box, kind of where you're at, where you feel in that physical space. A lot of times we talk about this in coaching. We talk about, what are we feeling with this? What do we feel about it? And so many times we have such a hard time identifying a single feeling, right? We want to put it into a thought form. Like, I feel like that's a bunch of crap, right? Like, that's a thought. I feel mad. That's a feeling. I feel angry. I feel frustrated. Those are feelings. So I want you to clearly identify what you're feeling right now. Samora, thank you for your question. And I want to hear your 10 cents on this, Eva. Why do I get sleepy when I start to meditate? When I start meditation, why do I get sleepy? What's your 10 cents? I have my thoughts on that, but I wonder what you think.
Yeah, I'm curious if we're going to say similar things. So that's part of your body coming back into that parasympathetic activation of rest and digest. I don't know about you, but I am somebody who, I will say I used to be this way. I used to be go, go, go. I couldn't stand to sit still. I wanted to be busy. And if I'm being honest, it's because I didn't want to deal with the stuff in my head. I didn't want to take the time to think about what I was thinking about. And so when I would finally sit down, I would just pass out because I was so tired of running all the time. And so meditation, especially if it's not something that you're used to, if relaxation is something you're not used to, your body is finally resting. Your mind is finally resting, and it's been craving that, and you're finally giving it some of that. So what's your take, Delane?
Mine's similar, that you're so used to being in that activated sympathetic space. The only time that you're not there is when you're asleep. So
Yeah.
your brain just associates that feeling of calm with sleepiness, right? And maybe that's even the only time that you're allowing yourself not to be activated is when it's bedtime. So I think it's exactly what it is. We talk about neural grooves and the connection of neurons in our brain. The only time that your brain may be running this calming circuitry is when you're getting ready for bed. So you may just immediately activate and kind of tend to push into that space of sleepiness. There's a number of great studies out there about what is it? There's letters that go, but it's basically non-sleep deep rest is what I think that is the letter NSDR maybe. But it's this, allowing yourself to rest, but not doing it in a sleeping space. And that, that's meditation. I mean, and all the literature around it will cite different types of meditation. So yeah, I think that may be some more what you're experiencing, and let me know, definitely put it in the question and answer if you think it's something else, or if you have other questions about that. Do understand, and I think that this goes for everybody, and there are alumni clients, there are active clients, and there are people in this group that have never been in my group, my 26-week reversing diabetes group. But do understand that a lot of times, why do I get sleepy when I meditate? I must be doing wrong. I love that Eva said, we are our worst critic. We're the one that probably creates the most stress in our life because of the things that we believe about what we're doing, right? So if you're immediately struggling to kind of get your brain to the space where you can meditate, I'm not doing it right. Oh my gosh, my breaths aren't right. Oh my gosh, I need to belly breathe, not chest breathe. Oh my gosh, I'm getting sleepy. Like if you're going there, this is what we work on with that brain and the things that we're believing, right? This is it. So if you are in the alumni group, don't hesitate to bring anything. I want you to try this. The next alumni meeting will be in the beginning of May. Try these techniques, and any questions, worries, concerns, or thoughts that you're not doing it right, make sure you bring that up to that alumni group. Elizabeth says, definitely feel calmer and more at peace. Lisa says, such great information about what our body goes through. Absolutely. Helps me to understand why I'm constantly going through. Feels like either on too much or off. How do I get into that middle ground? And I think that a lot of that is a practice thing, right? It's like, how did you learn to ride a bike? I was either falling off or you know what I mean? Or not getting on it. Like anytime it wasn't right. And of course you learn to ride a bike from doing it over and over again and giving yourself permission to have a couple falls, right?
Yeah.
Giving yourself permission to go through a meditation space where I find this where my brain's everywhere. My brain, I call it being like a fart out of a bottle. My brain's everywhere. And I'll go through my 10-minute morning meditation and I'm like, whoa, that was not the best meditation. But I definitely have made the pattern of sitting down, of getting on that pillow for 10 minutes every morning. And some mornings are great and very Zen-like, and some morning it's like a raccoon on cocaine up in my head. It's crazy and wild. So I think that, Lisa, that's how do you get to that middle ground? You keep practicing, and some days you're going to be in that middle ground, and some days you're going to be on either side of it, and that's just normal. Thank you, Eva, for bringing up the whole cold, like the cold therapy. If you watch this, or if you're watching this on the replay and you want to ask, I just want you to know, yes, the literature behind cold therapy is solid. If I die early, it will be because I absolutely refuse to do cold therapy. Like if I'm cutting years off my life, I'm okay with that. Cold therapy is my version of torture. I'm not interested in it. So I just didn't want anybody to think that like I was naysaying or, Nelly naysaying that literature. No, it's solid.
Yeah.
Oh.
I think anything that we can find like that. And maybe it's something like speaking up for yourself if you're not used to speaking up for yourself, especially when you know that you're going to have an opportunity to, and maybe rehearsing what you want to say to speak up to yourself. That's something that we're taking ourselves out of our comfort zone. we're purposely trying something that's hard, but staying in that window of tolerance. You know, I wouldn't go and speak up to yourself with somebody that you know is going to be abusive to you and take advantage of that. Some kind of atmosphere where you know it's somewhat controllable and you know you can manage, and then really observing yourself through that, breathing through that. And then after that, taking the time to process your emotions and process how you felt through that. That's how we build that resiliency where we can tolerate a little bit more. And then we can learn to live in that middle ground better.
That's so good, Eva. Thank you. Samora says it makes a lot of sense. There is a website. Oh, it's Miriam, Mimi. She says, thank you so much. Feeling very relaxed. So yeah, so I hope that everybody has found this helpful. If you guys ever want to come back to this, you know, the visualization meditation that Eva just walked us through, this is always going to be on the YouTube channel. So you can get on there, you can, you know, scroll through till you get to that space and you can do that. But that is one of the most, and even the breathing thing, I actually learned that in a different meditation. That's really interesting that you brought up that balanced breathing. Because I've learned that in a couple different meditation spaces. So all of those things, these are going to be available for you guys on the YouTube channel. If you need them, find them. If you have any problems, you know my email address, just reach out to me. I'll get it for you. Eva, I cannot tell you how grateful I am. In general for you in my life as my friend, but also for your deep knowledge in this space and your willingness to share it with everybody. So I love you so much. I hope everybody found this helpful. If you have any questions, holler at me. I'm going to go ahead and sign off. Any comments that you want to put on the YouTube channel is great also. Thanks, Eva.